Leanne Harris, CEO for Keller Williams Portland Central, and on today, Getting to Know Your Realtor, we have Cheyenne Gillooly. And what you might be asking yourself is, oh boy, why do we have a Seattle Realtor on here when you work in the Portland office? And the reason why is because of expansion. And I've talked about that on a couple episodes in the past. And expansion is a real thing at Keller Williams. And we teach people that you can be in business with people across the country doing the exact same things that you might be doing down in Portland. And you're part of the United Home Group team. And the other thing that I just have to point out to the listeners, because I have no idea how this podcast is going to go, is that Cheyenne is also my best friend. So we might get a little nutty because we really know each other at a pretty deep level, but I think that'll make it even more interesting.
That's what I asked you this morning. I was like, are you going to make me cry today?
No, it's probably going to make us laugh so hard that, we're going to have tears coming out and projectile tears. And later on, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, what did we do to our listeners? Well, what I love about you, Shy, and I do have a professional relationship with you as well, and I try to keep those two separate because we're pretty goofy as friends. And yet, I think the one thing that I know about you is that you truly are a people person, and you want everyone to win around you. You are such the cheerleader for everybody else, where I'm like I think about every worst case scenario, and you're like, it's going to be fine, Leanne, but you're so fabulous that way. So tell us your journey in real estate.
I wore this for you.
You did.
You're welcome.
For our listeners, it says optimistic on her sweatshirt. And I think people are really messing with me because Andrea wore a sweatshirt with a giant wolf on it. She did. Like, is that your spirit animal? She's like, heck yes, I'd be a wolf, leader of the pack.
She's a different level of funny. Like, she comes in and
right.
Out of nowhere. My journey in real estate. So I just had my anniversary. So I've been doing this for 5 years.
Nice.
And when I started, it was because I had a good friend, Molly Haynes, who said, I really need to speak to the team leader in the office. And I had just left tech and I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And
those
I thought,
cute pictures you posted the other day of when you were in tech.
With the little giveaway for the iPad. with the golf. Yeah.
And a white on
screen. That's what I did. I went to conventions and I stood in the, my job was to make sure that I talked to as many people as I could. So giving away an iPad and wearing a golf polo sure helps. And I'm 5'10", so in heels, I'm like 6'2". So
and P.S. I'm like 5. I try to tell people I'm 5'5", but I'm 5'4", so we are a sight when we are out together.
Very good. So with that, I wasn't really sure what I was going to do. About 6 months of doing just contract work. But when I met the team leader in Keller Williams, it had nothing to do with real estate. I was like, oh, I like these people. It was just everything that I thought to myself when I left. I thought I better figure out how to sell houses so I could be around these people. I knew nothing about houses, like nothing at all. I didn't own a house. I didn't have a car. I was just like, I guess I better get my license. And that's where it started. So I got my license in Kirkland. I started out, I had one transaction. It was from a bold call that I made. And that was my first year. And then, I'll touch back on that. Actually, I did bold on a bold scholarship. And
oh my gosh, you're the second person that told me that. Vince told me that too.
Oh,
and I was getting a scholarship. That's so cool.
I was like selling my Gap t-shirts on Poshmark for $5. But I was broke. And that's
you're just the ultimate hustler though.
If you pull up my Poshmark and look back at that year, you'll see that this is a real thing. And Tracy, the ALC called me to come in and do lead generation. And I thought, well, I could probably do that because I could just plan a whole day to be in the office. And then they asked me about bold. I wasn't going. And I was like, I can't afford that. I have nothing. I can barely pay my cell phone bill. And I did it on a bold scholarship and I went every week and I got there, I took the bus and I got there before everybody else. And people just thought I was leadership because they'd never seen me because I thought I sucked, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wasn't selling houses.
I was actually talking about that with somebody today, that there's a book called, It's like women that have imposter syndrome. And we actually talked about it on another podcast, but it was
Yeah.
like women that have imposter syndrome. And it's so funny to me knowing you now and the friendship that we have. I'm like, I couldn't be friends with a more confident person. And to hear, like, first of all, I know the story of you, like carrying all these books, getting on public transportation. First of all, I'm like, gross. I haven't taken I haven't taken public transportation in so long. And then I'm like, wait, in New York, I guess I do. And I never mind taking the subway and stuff, but I was like, but in Seattle, like, no, I'm not taking the bus. And so I can't imagine you feeling like a fraud. And yet so many people do feel like that in the very beginning. And I think that this is really critical to understand is that here you were, you're in this confident career, you're working in tech, you're brilliant, you're smart, you're beautiful, and you make a change and all of a sudden you have a lapse and like, uh-oh, I'm going to get found out. And I don't believe in myself. And man, I'm telling you, I wish people could take that energy from that other place and transfer it. But of course, starting anything new is never going to be easy. And so I do love that you're bringing that piece up because I think it does plague women for sure. And I think that it's important to talk about and make sure that people understand, like, if you don't have the confidence, borrow it from me, borrow it from Cheyenne. We loan it out like there's no tomorrow. We're like, come on, girls, we got things to do.
Sure. It really, what is it? Someone said it to me today, actually. What does Zig Ziglar say? Like, whenever anyone asks you how you're doing, just say you're great. Like, right? Like that was really what I had to do. Even though I was taking a bus, I had these stacks of papers. I was a sweaty mess. Nobody knew any of that. And that's how I got to meet Cody. And a lot of my book of business started there because, and I talked about this earlier in the week, you know, I have a lot of connections. I give my time, I build relationships with people.
Yeah.
And I
did a meeting from my office and talked about how to give your time to get relational transactions and be able to do business with people that you like and trust.
And that's my whole business. And so that was all I had in the beginning. I didn't have leads and I didn't have a skill set that I right? I had to get really good at saying things like, that's a really great question. Let me get you the best answer. Because I didn't have the answer. I was so good at that. I was so good at giving no information other than I'm going to get you the information.
Yeah.
And so that was the beginning. And that's what it's what really started my business. It's when I first started putting things into my database, doing the things like open houses and lead gen. Then I joined a team. I did a team for about a year. They did a lot of new construction. What I learned from them was I couldn't have learned anywhere else. But my focus was primarily new construction and I wanted to do other things. Left the team, was a PC coach for a little while. And then I was the assistant team leader for downtown Seattle.
Productivity coach for those that don't know.
Because what I found is when I taught class for the first time, even though I've talked about how like nervous I get and without having the information, the first time I taught class, I couldn't figure out how to set anything up on the overhead. I couldn't figure anything out. And I just called it an overhead projector because I'm 37, but you know what I mean. I just couldn't figure it out. But being in front of like those 10 people that were in the class and being able to share with them my journey, I'm like, you guys, like, you can do this. Like, you can do this. And it just made me so excited that I thought I'm going to go into this productivity coaching role. And this is what I'm going to focus on.
Our culture at KW as a whole is really that there's enough to go around. And that's why we're a really collaborative bunch. And we share a lot amongst each other, and we'll share, listing presentations and market stats and what's going on here and what's going on there. And we just really believe in abundant thinking. And you are the same way. You take brand new agents, you put them under your wing, you believe in abundance, you show them how to go out and get it. And even being part of the United Home Group, we pay for a tremendous amount of leads for you. And what I see you doing is having the newer agents that don't have any transactions work your leads. And I'm like, no, she knows she has enough. stuff. Like she's just bringing them in. And so she's going to help them get off the ground. And then what ends up happening is that we have this fantastic team of people that we're working together because there is that abundant thinking. And so I love that about you. Why do you have anything else you want to give us on your journey in real estate, or should we get to the 3 nuggets you want to leave people with?
I can get right into the nuggets because that brings me to this last year,
Okay.
where I stepped out of any leadership role, started working with United Home Group. If you don't know Leanne, if you've been around me enough, you know that Leanne says no, just to help me get focused on, my priorities. And so all I've been doing this year is selling houses. So.
Yeah, I love it. And you know what? Sometimes it's funny because it can sound kind of contradictory to people depending on who I'm coaching. Andrea, who I interviewed on another one, my response to her was, I want you to find the yes and everything, because she does say no to everything, right? But you say yes to everything. So I have to get people a little bit back to the middle. The optimist. I love it. Yes. So yeah, I mean, I kind of got you a little bit more focused. I said, go say no to a lot of things this year and get really focused on your income coming in. And we got to see you buy a brand new BMW with a big giant bow on top and a new car. And your success is starting to pay off because you've gotten extremely focused, which is contrary to sometimes other people need to open up a little bit. So go on. So nuggets, say no.
So yeah, say no.
Okay.
I think that the biggest thing for me is having, having a schedule. Like professionals have a schedule. I have to get my priorities done before I move to something else. Yeah. I get super excited. I have all these ideas, I vomit all over everyone all of the time, with great ideas and things I want to do. So having a schedule is really key. And I think that what I learned from being in a leadership role is that it didn't matter if the agent sold 0 homes or 100 homes. Every time they came into my office, it was their schedule.
Yeah.
And all you have is your time, really. That's the only thing you can control. So that's sure. One.
Do you feel like so I know a little bit about you. So one of the things I love about you is you will go on vacation, but you always choose to sit in the passenger side of the seat and you work the entire time, but you do it in a way that's super fun, but that you can keep things going even if you're going to go on a road trip. I love that you are on the road 24/7. So you and I, we ran away to Palm Springs that literally we're finding out that a pandemic's coming and we're like, okay, let's go lay out at a rooftop pool in Palm Springs. We're out of here. And then let's go to where did we end up going? To the Joshua Tree Forest.
Yeah.
So we run away and don't tell anybody, but we can still work anywhere that we are. But that's what I love about you and I is we were literally sitting out by the pool in a rooftop in Palm Springs. We had laptops out, cell phones out, and we're cranking out business like people don't even know. And we're still saying Ian, we got to stop at 3:00 because it's almost cocktail time, and having a great time.
It's important. I think when I was in tech, that was something that I didn't like. I was in a cubicle. I had 3 screens.
Yeah.
I live and work, and it's all the same. This isn't I can't even believe it's my job most of the time lately. I'm like, it's a lifestyle. It's not,
yeah.
I got to fit it in. So yeah, if I'm always working.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is that if you were to see us, just in photos or something, you might think that we're just out there playing all the time and gallivanting through the Joshua Tree Forest and renting Maseratis to drive as fast as
getting massive steaks, just food coma steaks. I'm done with this. Let's eat something else.
Let's order 3 dinners. People might think that we only have fun, but I swear to God, it transfers from me ordering 3 dinners to then us talking about, okay, what's our next empire we're building? And so I think that when you said it's a lifestyle, I talked about this with another guest, and I was saying, it's good to have time to yourself, but it's also good to just stop having to live in somebody else's normal. You know what I mean? Like just because somebody else wants to live in a cubicle their whole life doesn't mean that that makes you any better or worse. It just means do you, but put in the hours too. And I think that that's what a lot of realtors or people that want to be realtors, they don't understand. They think, yeah, well, I see Leanne and Cheyenne and they're laying out by the pool. I'm like, 8 hours of it was literally us working, and people just don't know that part.
And they don't, and I have massive
And we love
ADD. I have massive ADD. So if you're with me and we're on vacation or we're doing something or I'm the passenger in the car, I have to say, hey, I need 5 minutes. I cannot talk at all. And I got to get this done. And then I'm like, okay. And then I'm back to it. Like, but I have to focus on it. And yeah, my boyfriend's great. He drives. I work. It's cool.
Amazing. It's amazing. Let's see, what do? I don't think I drive. Oh yeah, I did. I drove from when we were in Palm Springs. I was like, I gotta drive really fast. My thing is I like a little bit of a risk, so I wanted to get the fastest car.
Like, did you hear that? I'm like, the car sound?
I'm like, that engine is amazing.
It can go faster. I don't know.
So fun. Well, I think that, we've had a chance to have an amazing time, but I think more importantly too, you and I have had the chance of really changing people's lives that decide to come into our world. And we really focus on, not letting people stay stagnant, not letting people have the stories be told to them of how they need to be and how they need to operate. And even though we do follow a schedule, we follow a schedule so that it equals what our dreams are. Right. We're not following a schedule because somebody told us to. And a lot of times when I tell people to go time block, I'm not telling you to time block for my life. I'm telling you to time block for your life. What does that look like? Go to the end game and reverse engineer and then put that in your calendar.
And being with my history with Keller Williams and then different leadership roles and teams, I get questions a lot where people are like, why aren't you just by yourself? Or why don't you start your own team? I'm like, why would I do that? Like, why don't you ask me more questions about the team that I'm on? That's something that, and then I get like like the head tilt, like, oh, okay.
Because you know what it is though? Most real estate agents don't run their business like a business. And if I asked them for a profit and loss, they wouldn't be able to provide it to me. And they don't understand that most agents are only profiting less than 35%. And our agents profit about 48% of every dollar that they make. And I mean, that's after, and I'm sure that would be surprising to even clients listening to this, as they think, you're making so much commission. And in reality, there's a lot of dues, there's a lot of responsibility to get the business up and running. And I don't think that people understand exactly how expensive it can be. But you actually profit more usually being on a team. So that's why I choose to do it.
They don't get that. It's more than just leads. And you already told that I give my leads away. So
I told on you.
You told on me. Yeah. So it really is about the people that you're with, and that falls under having a schedule, right? Like being able to work, to be able to be present when it's time to be present. I'm not in bed working. Like when it's time for dinner, like I put my phone away. Like, it's up at the in between times I'm working.
Yeah.
And it's important for me to be present with the people that I'm with, for sure.
Yeah.
The second thing is, this was an interesting year for everyone. And I think that the biggest thing that I learned, it was at a goal setting retreat with the One Thing, and this was November of 2019. So remember, I just got back into real estate. I had a lot of life changes. And yeah, I got divorced. So those were things I really needed to have my core.
Like, you said that like you almost like you caught something. I got a divorce.
Well,
actually, I think you cured something.
Definitely cured. First marriage, check. It's something that having core values was an exercise that we did, and what I figured out was it was the first time ever that I realized that I was making these decisions and with core values that weren't actually me.
Yeah.
The whole point of having these core values is to give you a compass for where you're at today, right? And it's so conflicting because especially I think as a woman, you wear so many hats, right? Like, Lan, you're a mom, you're a coach, you're a mentor, you're running the office, like you're doing all these things. And so I think that you want to say, like, you want the Miss America answer of what you think your core values should be, but it doesn't help you. And that's why it doesn't work. So
Right.
I figured out my core values were optimism, freedom, and community. So if things weren't a 9 or a 10 in those areas, they had to be a no.
Dude, so all 3 of your core values have been rocked this year. I mean, I guess we can still stay optimistic, but man, your freedom gets kind of taken away because you're not allowed to leave the house.
Right.
Your community is gone. You and I have not seen each other since I don't know when. Then we have optimism, which every freaking place we turn right now is like negative news. You and I are over it.
Well, yeah. I mean, on one of our development calls, I think it was Cody that said it, but like, he's like, stop consuming all the COVID information. Like, you're not going to wake up and find a cure, right? Like, I'm not going to like consume all the COVID information and then all of a sudden figure out a vaccine. So I did really well with that. The one thing it took me a little bit longer as I was listening to the governor's updates every time he spoke. And so then I just eliminated the whole thing. I don't read anything about that. Anything that pertains to real estate in my immediate world, absolutely. Like, do I know all the rules and regulations? Absolutely. I'm a state director for Washington Realtors. I know exactly what's going on. Yeah. Watching the news and reading it, like, why? Like,
I need to know the most crisis type of information. But other than that, I'm like, please bring me the positivity.
Yeah.
Same.
That's all I need. So core values. And then third is ask one more question all the time.
Yeah.
Just one more. Yeah.
Is that still along the lines of like stay in curiosity, or you're saying right before you're about ready to think that you can put a transaction together? Or let's say, for example, you get a client and the client brings you all their information. It's like, have that arsenal of questions to just ask that one more question. Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more. I remember Coach's Skills Camp, and they offered like, I don't know, in one of our manuals, and it was like 5 pages of just questions that Diana Kokoska had put together. And I was like, these are amazing, because I swear I would meet these fantastic people and I would just be like, dumb. Like, what? Why couldn't I think of a question to ask these amazing people? You know, I mean, I always like to ask that question, like, what's the one thing that you don't know about me? Well, I met the Dalai Lama, but do you know that I was completely silent the entire time? I was like, I was like, don't talk. And it was like, I was afraid to ask the question, but like, what kind of question would I now, Leanne, at the age that I am now, want to ask the Dalai Lama? Much different person, right? So yeah, I think you have to ask one more question too. That's really good. Mm-hmm. Really good. All right. Anything else you want to leave the audience with?
No, I mean, I think this is it. I mean, it's pretty simple stuff. I think if you catch anything, you know, just recognize this is so simple. I mean, you could literally run your life off of, you know, a season of Mr. Rogers. Like, just be a good person, like do the right thing, and like that's it.
Totally. A season of Mr. Rogers. I mean, seriously.
I just made that up. I don't know where that came from.
No, I like it. I like the stuff that rattles around in your head and then pops out of your mouth. Okay, well, good. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show today. I think people love getting to know you across the country. I'm going to leave the audience with one thing, and that is that if you live in Philadelphia, you may or may not have gotten a sandwich from Cheyenne. So Cheyenne has been known to collaborate and talk to other people across the country. And if they get into her referral network, she sends them lunch to their house. So you have like hype men that come out of Philly, right?
Yeah. So Philly's where the 5 a.m.ers started. And so when I launched the West Coast with Jake Dreyfus and Sky, you know, that it started in Philly. And if you know anybody from Philly, like they're pretty aggressive, right? So
I like it.
Some of these people that I've never met, but if you look at my KDOB referral network, or you go into any of those, like, you know, any of those agent groups on Facebook, if my name gets brought up, my Philly fan club, my awesome Philly people, some of them that I've never met in real life, were like, you better use Cheyenne. I'm like, thank you guys. Thank you, Philly.
Amazing. Well, I'm going to have to try to find my own Philly fan club.
It's a good one. I recommend it.
I'll be like, hey, by the way, I know Cheyenne.
Yeah. The best people I know. So, yeah, that's it. I guess it really just sums it up. It's all really, really simple. I guess.
Yeah. It's hard work and people need to put in the time, but it can be very simple. And it is about just getting out there, getting to know people, having a really good time. You know, even I would just say, you and I have been in places in Portland and they tend to start following you on social media after we've gone to places in Portland that are like big names, like, or restaurants or bars or whatever. And we'll kind of engage with them for a little bit, you and I, and then pretty soon they're following us back. And we're like, how did that happen? You know, so I think that it's about engagement. It's about community. It's about getting out there and just getting to know people, and real estate kind of tends to flow after that.
Yeah. It is. It's really, it's the people that you're around and how you choose to spend your time. It's really important.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you coming on today. Thank you for being here.
I get to ask you one question.
Oh, okay. What is it?
Were you trying to get out of the one?
No, I just didn't know if you had a question.
I was going to end with just ask one more question and peace out.
Deuces.
Yeah, right. So I have question books and question things, and I know a lot about you, but I think one of the things I wanted to ask is if you were in an interview on stage for like a Miss America pageant, besides your desire for world peace,
what
would you tell the judges? What would you say?
Wow, I don't know. That's a really good one. What would I say to the judges that just like to get them to vote for me?
Yeah, like you're on the podium. You're like, my name is Leanne, and here's why I'm Miss America. And like before you get the crown and wave, you have to answer this question. So obviously you're like world peace, duh. But what else?
World peace. I would say that I would leave the judges with this. It is our duty to become the very best that we can become in this life so that we can give to others and take people along with us. And I think one of the things, my biggest pet peeve is when people tell me that money is not the driver of all things. And I really believe this, and I probably heard it from another one of my business coaches at some point, but that's a really selfish response, because I don't care if you don't want it, you should give it away. And there's children that are hungry. I'm going to be interviewing a great guy coming up in the next couple of months who's just a phenomenal numbers guy, really. I mean, he ran one of the biggest hedge funds out of New York. And he now even works for the betterment of kids. And I have my own nonprofit called Lifeline for Hope that I really want to address the most basic human needs so that people have mental health issues relieved from them, because those can be additional stressors. And I think that it is our duty in life to make the very most out of ourselves that we possibly can so that we can take others along with us.
You win.
No, you do. You're my Miss America. I love it. All right. Well, thanks, Shy. I appreciate you being on today. Thanks for joining us today on Getting to Know Your Realtor. This episode was brought to you by Lifeline for Hope. Be sure to catch us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Stitcher, and be sure to subscribe. Thanks so much again for joining us today. Have a great day.